This is how I break down the different training elements so that I can plan what I'm going to do for a workout that day. Now, I do not have a long-term plan usually working through big cycles because I think there's just way too many unknowns in life. What I like to have are guiding principles for my training. And I take a pretty simple approach where I say, looking back, what have I done recently so that I don't overdo a certain type of workout? But what have I not done in a while? And that's one of the inputs, but also I look forward where I say, okay, well, what do I have coming up? Is there anything I need to plan for, or any days coming up where I know I want to do a certain workout or have a certain performance on that day? And then I can kind of work back from there to say, what should I do today? So what I like to do is I like to break training down into, or each training into two categories. High, low, and then I'll say fast, slow. So high, low, fast, slow. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's start with the high-low categories first, or the category first. This right here is thinking in terms of your central nervous system output, so CNS output. Is this a really high CNS activity, or is it a low CNS activity? This can be things that are recruiting a lot of the large motor units, those high threshold muscle fibers. These are ones that are lower in terms of that ultimate requirement. These are things that are going to be maybe more aerobic in nature, longer duration in nature, but it's not as high of an intensity. So it's just thinking more in terms of the Charlie Francis views of high-low days. Fast, slow, now this comes from how the tension is developing in the muscle. And this part of the equation is where I get more from Keith Barr. Keith Barr is the tendon researcher, and he thinks of fast is also, I could call this more of the performance. I'll put a P here for performance. Fast for performance, slow more for health. So once again, this is how tension is developed. When you develop tension quickly, this will be things like running, jumping, and the muscles turning on, and is what the tendon does in these scenarios. I think he calls it stress shielding, but the tendon is very stiff, and it acts, I don't know, I'm probably not saying these things completely correctly, but it's a very stiff unit. Whereas here, when you're doing slow, tension develops slowly or may hold over a long period of time. And then the tendon will start to become compliant, relaxed. You'll start having, what is it called? Tendon creep, I believe. And you'll start breaking different bonds and such like that. So this is more the slow end of the spectrum. Probably butchering some of these explanations, but this is how I break training down. And what I really think of when I do this is I don't want to overdo one element too many times in a row. So let's say I'm in the fast category, and I'll start putting examples in these buckets of, okay, what's a high fast activity? Well, I'd say sprinting is probably your number one, right? This is kind of pushing the envelope of both. It's as fast as you're going to get. It's kind of the upper right hand of this quadrant. It's as high intensity of an activity as you're going to do, extremely fast. Well, if I'm doing sprinting one day, I probably don't want to come back in the same bucket the next day. I'm not going to want to do something else as fast and high, which would be like plyometrics. Now, where do they fall? I'd say they're probably going to be a little bit slower in terms of how quickly the tension develops, but they're still going to be very high. Is it as high as sprinting? Yeah, maybe it could be. Depends what you're doing, but we'll put plyos over here too. Plyometrics. Okay, so then you're starting to look over your training days, and you know you have a big sprint day coming up in a couple days. Do you want to be doing plyos the day before? Probably not. 2 days before? Well, it depends. You're going to start probably wanting to move around here if you want to set yourself up. What are activities that I would say would be fast? So still in this fast category, but now they're low intensity. Well, these are things that I would think in terms of like jump rope, or some people call skipping, right? Jump rope. I put it down here, right? You're not as intense as some of these plyos. Now plyos there's a spectrum, right? Or continuum, however you want to say it. They can be very intense, they can be quicker, they can be, drops, all kinds of different things. But jump rope I put here, I put also like some of the jump circuits, and I'm not really putting relativities in this box right now. Jump circuit, these be things like jumping jacks, single line hops. It's kind of, they're lower on the intensity because you're not recruiting and putting on a ton of force in some of these things. They're a little bit lower level. Also, I put in the fast and low. Okay, I would also put like tempo med ball. So these are things where you're throwing a medicine ball against the wall in a repeated fashion, not the super explosive med ball throws, which might start to move their way up here a little higher. Maybe this would be like explosive med ball throws. Explosive, sorry, it's not the greatest handwriting ever. Med ball throws. Start moving their way up, so still fast, you're generating force really quickly. And now you're starting to move up kind of in terms of the intensity. You probably have things here like, and I don't, once again, no relativities within this box. I'm just writing examples. Olympic lifts, not something I do, but Olympic lifts would fall into that box. Reactive lifting, right? Quicker reactive lifts would fall into this box too. That really quick onset of tension, and it's a high intensity exercise. So if you're on the same workout day, I actually think you can couple these ones here. You can couple these on the same day. You're not going to have, I don't know if interference, I mean, there's competing, I guess, different views on if interference effect is as bad as some people think, but I think you can couple these types of things. So what do I like to do? I said jump circuit. Also said things like single line hops. I love doing single line hops as a prep for a speed day. So I'll go through my warm up. I'll do things like some single line hops with right foot, left foot. Just going over the line as quickly as I can, 6 seconds, as many reps as possible. Not really a high intensity activity, but it is fast in nature. And that is a nice setup so that I'm not draining myself before I get to sprints. It's just kind of getting things going. Maybe I should also say the fast versus slow. I was talking about the onset of tension and how it affects the tendon, but another way to really look at it, I also think about fast stuff that's usually typically more elastic in nature. So these are things that are hitting those connective tissues, that soft tissues, your tendons, your fascia. It's going to be more elastic in nature, whereas the slow stuff is probably going to fall in things that are more muscular in nature. So it's going to be your lifting, body weight, strength work, push-ups, stuff like that. And we'll fill that in. But I think these can be coupled together on the same day. But I do start saying, as you start having things that fall in the same box, you probably don't want to do the same box 2 days in a row. And you want to be careful when you've got these bordering boxes like this that are both fast. You want to do these back-to-back days. You might be able to do stuff here if the volume's not high to prep you for this day. But you still need to be careful. So once again, I'm just kind of talking through all of my thoughts. When I move over to this, the low slow would be things like body weight strength. Like I said, push-ups, pull-ups, going through things like what I call my Busch-Schexnayder circuits, right? You're just doing things that are going to be not really that high intensity. They're more muscular in nature, and there's not a really rapid onset of tension. Also in the low slow would be the isometrics. And I'm not talking about the max isos. These are once again going to be more body weight. Maybe you load them up a little bit, but isometrics. And these are my key for health. So still falling under that health bucket here, where I'm holding these for 30 seconds. This is my approach, 30 seconds. And when I do that, I'm trying to create a lot of tension in the muscles. So they're pulling on that tendon. And over the course of time, the tendon relaxes, becomes more compliant near the muscle. And that will then help prevent strains of the muscle. So you have your isometrics in this bucket. I like, as a body weight strength, this is still another thing that falls into this category, but I love depletion push-ups. Depletion push-ups are from Charlie Francis. And this is a great way to work on strength endurance, but leaving your legs fresh, doing these once a week. And a depletion push-up is you do a set of push-ups to failure, take 90 seconds, do another set of push-ups to failure, another 90 seconds, then one more set. So you're doing 3 sets, all to failure. And you should see a pretty large drop off between that first and the second. So to give you an example, kind of where my best fall, I might hit around 70 on my first set, take 90 seconds, and I'm dropping all the way down, typically under 20 on that second set. So I might go like 70, 18, and then maybe like a 16 or 15 or something like that. So depletion push-ups would also fall in this bucket. Moving up though, so we're still in slow. Maybe I should let you know which ones we're in here so we can kind of call this out. Remember, high, low, fast, slow. That's how I look at every single thing. Where does it fall? Slow, but now we're going to move up to the high intensity. Probably can guess what we're talking about here. We're talking about max effort lifting, right? That's going to be high intensity. You got to call upon those high threshold motor units. And this is stuff, the protocol I use the Bear Power protocol, where I just pretty much do deadlift and bench is my key lifting stuff. I might fill in the gaps, but that's really going to be your high slow category, are things that are more along that. And you could have different lifts, maybe start, some of these things start kind of bleeding over the line. So, like I mentioned before, what do I do? I'm sitting here going, okay, well, what did I do yesterday? Well, yesterday I should put another one here. Let's see, low and fast. This would also be tempo running, right? If you're doing things that are like, less than 90, terrible writing here, can't spell, tempo running. This would be things that are less than 75% effort, not extremely high central nervous system drain, but they're going to be elastic in nature, right? So, well, like I mentioned before, if I'm sitting here, I'm saying, what did I do the last few days? What categories have I hit? Probably don't want to overdo one of these and have overuse injury. So that kind of helps guide me in terms of what category should I focus on for that day. But then I also want to look forward. Do I have a meet coming up? Where does that fall? And then how do you set that up so you're not like hitting the thing too many times? And I like to have a nice balance here across these different things. Now, in terms of what things couple well, I mentioned how you can couple these on the same day, right? You can couple your fasts. You could couple your slows too. So I will do stuff like that. Like I'll kind of start off with my max effort lifting, or when my central nervous system is ready. I might even start down here and kind of get it primed with some, body weight strength, maybe some push-ups. I might even I like doing bands as well. I really like using bands in my basement, connecting them to different things. Get the bands going, get the muscles kind of engaged. I'm not going to drain myself, right? I'm not trying to get fatigued. I'm just trying to set myself up such I can come up here then and do my max effort lifting. Then I might come back down here again and work in this zone to finish up. So these can be coupled together on the same day. Your fast can be coupled together. And then you can even do, let's see here, you can do the verticals, and I would say you can even do the horizontals too, right? These are both going to fall into the same category. So how would I do that? Well, understanding that if your goal is a muscular day and you want to focus on health, you're going to want to stay in this column, right? If your goal is elastic and performance, you're going to want to stay in this column. However, I did mention like you can go to the horizontals as well. You can do the rows. But note that your focus on those days isn't going to be driven towards this, right? You're not going to be saying, oh, I'm trying to drive a health day, muscular day, so I can get that tendon creep and prevent hamstrings. Okay, no, now I'm working in a certain horizontal. That's a different focus. That's going to be either a low versus a high day, understanding that you're going to be calling upon different tissues and different muscles, tendons, stuff like that, different tissues so you do the effort. So what I would do is I might do a day where I'm out there and I'm sprinting. And after I get done sprinting, I come back and say, I still got some CNS capacity. I want to really make sure I keep driving home. Let's see what I can do from a max effort lifting standpoint. Maybe I'm primed, I get some really good lifts in there, and now I'm really diving deep into that well of pulling in those largest motor units. So that'd be the focus that day. This would be a high intensity day, and I'm going to try to really hit that. Might even combine these two here. So how would I do that? Let's see here. Low. I know what? Honestly, I don't do that one too often, but you could, I guess. You could combine a jump circuit and do some body weight stuff, just keeping everything really low on that day. Say I want to get some conditioning in, right? Maybe a biking falls somewhere in here. You do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, rowing, right? Something else is more aerobic in nature. This is going to be just more of a metabolic day. That's just not trying to get in the way of the CNS on future days. I probably don't combine these ones too much, but you could. What do I never combine? I never combine the diagonals. Why? Well, to me, they're just too far apart and they're calling upon, there's different purposes. If I'm trying to have a high intensity day or muscular day, I don't see where single line hops fall into that. I feel like I don't see how these two things work together. Do I know for a fact they interfere? I do not, but I would never combine. I'd not say never, but I don't combine these. I just don't ever see a point where these two things work together. I would say I also don't combine this diagonal either. If I'm doing a performance day, and this is the high intensity performance day, and I'm really focusing on sprinting, plyos, there might be some explosive med balls. I'm trying to really generate and be, firing. This is performance, right? This is as high as it gets up here. And these other things will all be complementary. I don't see where this comes in. I'm not going to be hitting depletion push-ups that day. I'm not going to be doing a body weight strength workout that day. The long duration isometrics for tendon health, I'm not doing those. I know some people might like doing some isometrics in their warm-up to kind of wake the muscles up so that you can do this. That could be done, but I don't typically do that. So, in summary, here's how I look at it. I think columns combine well. Rows can combine well. Diagonals, I'd say I hardly ever to almost never combine the diagonals. And then the overall view is looking back, what have I done recently? And then looking forward, what do I have coming up? And that helps me determine what I'm going to do that day. And like I mentioned before, I think life has way too many variables to have a structured plan over like 2 to 3 weeks. It's really hard to know what's going to come up, what kind of work stress stuff's going to hit, what your kids are going to be doing. Do you feel a little sick one day? Do you not get good sleep? There's so many things that go in there, so I like a guiding principles approach instead of a plan or a strategy. I'm not a fan of that. What are the key kind of ways you can break a workout down? Look back, look forward. What does that suggest I should do today? And that's really it. So feel free to ask me any questions. More than happy to talk through some of this. If anything was unclear, be happy to clarify it. Thanks.